Aussie gold stocks are eyeing the worst day in nearly 2 weeks as bullion prices slip. To tell us more, Shaw and Partners Peter O'Connor. Peter, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Obviously, look, they were outperformers last week. They're up over 12% on the week. Is this consolidation or is this something else?
It's consolidation. So if I was to give you an outlay for the quarter ahead, not just the next day or the next week, gold equities will outperform this quarter. It's at least a tactical positive trade from where they were in the last quarter. And I think we mentioned a week ago that they were the most disappointing stocks in the March quarter of this year. So this quarter should see a retracement of that correction that we had. And I think today is a little bit about a give back, a bit of a quiet trading day. There's a lot of activity due this week. Economic data out of China today, tomorrow, Wednesday, US payroll data out Thursday, reporting season in the US this week, Australian reporting season for production data for miners. So we're waiting on a lot of information and we're in a bit of a holding pattern. So I think today's weakness is not a sign of a change of that trend. I think we're still in that trend for this quarter. So gold equities will print higher over the quarter, and again a reversal of the quarter we've just had. And to that point, gold price as well will do that, just that. So the consolidation we had from the August highs last year, that's pretty much run its course. And to a previous speaker you had on who said he wasn't prepared to call the bottom, I'm prepared to call the bottom. Gold price has now seen its low tactically, at least for the next quarter or so, and that'll take gold equities higher. So a better quarter ahead for the gold names despite today's backdrop. And in fact, it's a better day to be buying them today than it was on Friday.
There you go. So, Peter, any particular stocks you're favouring at the moment?
Look, it's funny you ask that, but as a basket, they're all so cheap. They screen the cheapest of all the stocks I cover in the market, be it the big cap diversifieds, the energy names, the reflation trades, the metal miners. They're the cheapest group. So as a group, they sit very cheaply, whether it's on a valuation basis or on a share price performance basis. So I could blandly put to you buy anything and they'll all be going up this quarter. But specifically within that, I like but sometimes you get the opportunity where everything just looks cheap, and they do. And I mean that because gold equities and gold price have struggled the last quarter, and they're all down in what I call my naughty corner, and that's the time you could buy anything and everything. So, but drilling into that, the ones that really look interesting, Newcrest, Northern Star. We talked previously about Northern Star. It had some indexed headwinds last quarter. That was relating to the fact that it merged with Saracen, it became larger, and to its unfortunate timing, it was down-weighted in an index in the States, which saw it have headwinds there. That's gone this quarter, so we should see that subject to a delivery of a good quarterly production report, which we're expecting. They should do better this quarter. Newcrest, likewise, some great bottom-up as well as top-down news coming out. They're the two standouts for me, and I just also visited Evolution Mining's operation in New South Wales a week or so ago and was very impressed by what I saw there and in terms of what they're doing with what is one of their three key assets. So they're the big names I cover, and they're three that I like, and they're cheap relative to their recent trading over the last year or so. They're cheap relative to their fair value, and they do look like with the slightest gold tailwind, which we had last week, they'll all do well. And at the smaller end, there's a bunch of companies we look at as well, including Ramelius is looking quite interesting as well. That's popped a little bit ahead of its peers over the last week.
Let's just briefly switch tack for a moment. Nickel, what are you seeing in this space at the moment?
Nickel, it's been enjoying the benefit of reflation trade, and you mentioned in an earlier commentary about what's been driving copper, and nickel's been in that same category. Nickel, aluminium and copper had a fantastic first quarter and a great run from November last year, and that was very much driven by the backup in nominal bond yields and that reflation trade in general and the growth expectations as COVID vaccines are wheeled out and delivered. So nickel looks interesting, but specifically what really caught my eye was a week ago when Western Areas, which has been a laggard in the nickel space, it's one of the cheapest stocks that I cover other than gold. It had some operational headwinds in the September quarter and December quarter last year. They addressed that last week with a one-off announcement early in the quarterly production cycle to say that everything was back on track. They're looking to have a much better March quarter. They'll deliver later this month, but also a much better June quarter, and that's going to augur well going into FY22, given they had quite weak earnings in the first half of this year. So nickel, I like the space generally, but specifically the cheapest nickel name in my universe is Western Areas, and it had, again, specific headwinds. They're now behind them. They should deliver a much better outlook, and I think the market's missing. They've got one of the best growth profiles of any of the nickel miners in our market. From where they are today, between now and 2024 financial year, they should add about 50% more nickel units over that period of time. That's extraordinary growth from a company which nobody's even looking at that. They're all expecting to end their production in the next 3 or 4 years. They're not thinking about the next mine they're currently building. So a real opportunity, I think, in Western Areas and nickel space from a top-down and also a bottom-up perspective.
All right, Peter, good to get that wrap. Loving the gold tie too to match your tips there. Thanks very much for joining us from Shaw and Partners.
Thank you. Chose it perfectly. Thank you.